It's a Hebrew symbol for blood.
Oh, I see.
Hello and welcome to this special recording for Halloween 2024. This is our special provisionally All Hallows screen. You know, for those who like their pumpkin spicy. I have tried. ChatGPT came up with that. That's the best I can do. But don't worry about that. Taglines aren't what you came here for. You came for a little talk about a rather special film by the name of The Abominable Dr. Phibes, or Phibes, and I'm going to get that wrong every single time. But luckily,
Phibes. I believe it's Phibes, as Inspector Trout said. And are
what,
you
Inspector Pike?
me? Yeah, or Inspector Bream.
Yes. Chief Commander Halibut. That was good writing, wasn't it? I mean, they know people are going to be confused about it, so they specifically had someone tell you how to say it. That's good writing.
Yeah, it's an amazing film for its day, and I saw it as a kid, I saw it in high school, and now 35 odd years later, I understand the adult jokes far more.
Yes. A fair few of those in there. So, I mean, Murgoot, yeah, I don't know if I introduced you, but, you know, I asked you because you have been a basically regular co-host on the Thursday streams. You're one of the few people who was given free reign to select something. So I think I just asked, would you like to pick a Vincent Price film? Would I say Vincent Price or Hammer?
Yeah, and I immediately picked the Abominable Doctor Phibes, just because I wanted to watch it again, and we hadn't covered it because it's so wild.
Mhm. Well, we always have the thing of, oh gosh, we're doing a season. What are we going to cover? I mean, when we're covering Vincent, my goodness, we have a selection. He did so many. Although interestingly, we did one that is, well, has startling similarities. I'm thinking, of course, of Theatre of Blood. This is a 1971 film. Theatre of Blood was 1973. But there's quite a lot of similarities between the two plots, aren't there?
Yes, going after the victims who injured him and chewing the scenery and the
Silent
intriguing
female assistant.
the intriguing deaths,
Oh.
amusing deaths. This one's a bit more rapid fire, but it's the bees. I'm glad they kept it off screen. Otherwise, you would have ended up with a 70s version of Nick Cage's Wicker Man. No,
Yes.
not the bees.
We saved that one. Well, we just wouldn't be able to take it seriously, would we? But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it is a very similar plot, but the films in delivery are wildly different. Both quite comic, but Dr. Phibes, it's just so much weirder. It's so off the wall. I absolutely would you believe that this wasn't a commission script? This was written entirely separately and then offered to AIP, that's American International Pictures, run by Arkoff and Nicholson, which might
So it was
explain.
handed to him cold.
Yeah. I think that sort of explains why it's so off the wall. It's not from the regular team of writers, as far as I can tell. It's just it was offered to them, and they said yes.
Yeah, because James Whitten wasn't. I was checking around Wikipedia, and I briefly checked IMDb, and I didn't see anything else written by him. I may have missed it, but
Very few things. I mean, some TV work. I think he went on to write quite a lot of The Man from Uncle. Um, And his co-author, William Goldstein, really sort of moved off script writing very quickly and became a musical guy. But
Hmm.
I wonder if he's more influential because the music plays such a key role in this film.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose music and Judaic tradition. So maybe
Yeah.
William Goldstein, the composer, is possibly our major influence in making this
I
such a unique movie.
I wouldn't be surprised, but the reason he stands out is because he composed the music for several award-winning plays and movies, especially
Mm,
Fame. As a play and a movie, it was highly regarded
mm.
at the time. May not have carried over well into the UK, but in the US, it was a big hit at the time.
Mm.
About basically about Juilliard High School.
Oh,
Uh,
right. I don't know it myself.
yeah, it's good. It's very good. I remember watching it and really enjoying it as a kid. Um, with my dad being a music teacher, we saw all kinds of things, and this is one that I actually enjoyed.
Oh, right. You,
So,
he also did some of the music for the Twilight Zone.
oh
So
wow,
skilled guy. I mean, maybe. Oh, and I'm afraid Shocker as well, the 1989. I mean, but then you find this with the composers, don't you? That they've just gone all over the place in what they've done.
they go where the money is.
Mm.
And if you want a decent score, I mean, even for a stinker of a movie like Shocker, it did have a decent score and it did have a good soundtrack. So there's that.
Yeah, yeah. But here we are anyway with one of William Goldstein and James Whiten. I should get that right. James Whitten or Whiten, rare screenplays. And I think we covered roughly what happens here. Yes, our main character played by Vincent Price, Dr. Phibes, is the victim of well, victim of what he believes is malpractice by a bunch of doctors. It costs him his wife, an uncredited Caroline Munro,
Oh
who's
yeah,
more of a hammer figure than AIP. And so he starts taking his revenge. But he's able to do this because he's presumed dead because he was in a horrible accident where he got all burned up. And this is one of those classic things. You know you're set up for a big monster face reveal early on, but there's a sort of absolutely bizarre genius to this. We know we're going to get a special effects moment when we finally see Dr. Phibes' face. We're introduced to him, uh, captivating our attention, playing the organ from behind with the hood over his face. So we never see him, so we're already wondering what's his face like. Then we see him applying the makeup, and then it basically his mask is Vincent Price's face, which has got a really weird meta logic to it.
yeah. The grayish face, and you can see the latex line around his chin, and
Mm,
you know it's a mask, but you're just kind of like, that's actually impressive.
mm.
And when you look at the table and you see the nose and ear prosthetics, and then he grabs the wig and puts it on, and you never see what's under there until the end reveal. But
Mm. You're teased, but yeah, I love the bizarre logic that the actor's real face is the mask. That's something very special. Yeah, but I mean, we should acknowledge actually, it's obviously Vincent's face with additional makeup upon it.
mhm.
Yeah, we should get that clear. I think I messaged you when I was watching this, being like, "This is V for Vendetta." V for Vendetta must they must have watched this and thought, oh yeah,
Minus the totalitarian regime.
true. I was just thinking of the scenes in the lair where V is on his own and just sort of then his little makeup table. I don't know. I wondered if they'd been inspired as well.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, um, law-abiding citizen used the ratcheting uh, neck device.
That is such a
In
wonderfully weird movie.
Dr. Phibes, it's the frog mask where he gets choked out and his throat cut. And in brain fart, law-abiding citizen, it's the CIA officer's necktie, but it's still the same ratcheting effect.
Mm.
Kill them off, and then the cabbage. I believe they're little cabbages, like large Brussels sprouts,
Mm.
make the sugary syrup to attract the locusts. Um, Similar was used in Gross Point Blank for a failed assassination.
Really? Oh
Yeah,
my goodness, I have not seen that movie in decades. Goodness me, that is a flashback. I did not expect you to come here with a John Cusack classic reference. What was that? John Cusack and oh,
Joan Cusack and Dan Aykroyd.
Minnie Driver was in it too, wasn't she?
Yes, as the
See,
love.
folks, come for Vincent Price, get unexpected nostalgia. When did you last hear Minnie Driver referenced?
I haven't seen her anywhere lately.
Yeah.
Not for at least 10
Yeah.
years.
I mean, okay. Let's talk about those scenes because those were brilliant. There was about the Brussels sprouts. There's such a nice meta joke in there about Vincent being extremely selective, like
Hmm.
clearly referencing the fact that he was well known at this point as a gourmet cook.
Hmm.
That was a lovely little touch as well. They also have a moment where he sort of looks rather snootily at some art, which I thought was brilliant as well.
Yeah, it's also sniffing the wine and pouring it down the vent at the side of his neck,
Oh yes.
nodding subtly, like, "Yes, that's it."
Yeah. Oh, I could have read him being grumpy with this film, and but I think he actually loved it. Now he had a sort of troubled relationship with AIP at this point. He basically didn't think they were sending him particularly great material, and he was annoyed at being under contract to them. Uh,
Yeah.
but it seems that he really enjoyed it. I mean, I have a biography of him that's got some nice little tidbits, and he seemed to actually really enjoy this one. He loved the director being so off the wall and having touches like the those little meta references, or him, yeah, drinking through a vent in his neck.
Yeah, the speaking through the gramophone horn, that was a classic touch.
Yeah,
And
it's. I think he liked the challenge. Like he has to act still, he has to convey it, but he can barely move his face.
hmm
So it's. I think it's a challenge that he loved.
yeah, I need to see Dr. Phibes Rises again, and you got to wonder how much he enjoyed being forced into the sequel. But
Yeah, maybe less so. I mean, it's a standout moment for him. It was a brief, well, let's just say it's a topsy turvy relationship. I mean, before this, do you know what he did? The immediate preceding film.
no,
Okay,
not off the top
I've
of my
just
head.
I've got this down because it's a weird one. So it's 1968. He was in The Trouble with Girls with Elvis. They put him in
Okay,
an Elvis picture. Um, Then they
That
get him in this, and then Dr. Phibes rises again, but then he gets Theatre of Blood, where he has a whale of a time and absolutely shines, and ends up meeting his third wife, as we've covered on stream before. But this seems like a winner for him. This is where he gets to shine. And when it comes to the sequel, I mean, I haven't seen it, but there was a little note about that he had a bit of a PR problem with that one.
hmm.
Basically, his relationship with AIP, it was not great, and Nicholson and Arkoff were wanting to replace him. So they had
Hmm.
another guy coming in who was going to be their new leading man, which is a guy called, I'm sorry, Robert Quarry. Robert Quarry. And I hope you don't mind me reading, Murgoot, but there's a kind of fun anecdote here, if you
Go
don't mind.
for it.
So shortly after shooting of the sequel began, there was a big cocktail reception, and an English publicist came up to Vincent and asked, "How do you feel about Mr. Quarry coming in as your replacement at AIP?" And Vincent wasn't happy about it. He was hurt. So Quarry goes to the producer and told him what happened. And it was too late, the damage was done. This publicist made it sound as if I were out to dethrone the king. That made a rift between Vincent and Quarry. I never saw Vincent socially after that incident, not ever. Director Robert Fuest. How would you say it first? Fust?
Fuse.
Fewest?
Uh,
Let's say Fewest.
Fuse.
Director Fewest remembered, in makeup, Robert Quarry used to sing Gershwin, and Vincent Price looked around the corner, and Quarry said, Didn't know I was a singer, did you, Vincent?" And Vincent said, "Well, I knew you weren't a fucking actor." Sorry to take a time to get there and to swear, but
Yeah.
yes, yeah, Vincent, as I think we've covered, wasn't always getting the best script, so we have to be grateful for the delights that we got from this, and this one is absolutely full of delights. I see why you went for it, but would you tell me a little bit about why it stands out for you so much?
Just the I just remember the organ. I remembered the weird robotic band. I remembered that there were some funky deaths, and I just remember Vincent Price chewing the scenery to bits, and then Virginia North as Volnavia just going absolutely ham at the end.
Oh, she was great. I mean, you know, in so many of those, there's something about it is like how unapologetic they are, and they just don't really explain themselves, and it just comes off like an art mood piece. Like, why is Volnavia silent? How did she meet him? Never explained.
Yep.
Why did he build an orchestra called the Clockwork Wizards? Don't worry about it. It's just
Yeah.
there, it's unapologetic, and it is just fabulously weird.
Yeah. It didn't help that, or yeah, didn't hurt with Victoria North or Virginia. Dang. Virginia North having been a Bond girl during On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Was she? I had
Yeah.
missed that.
I
Nice.
need to rewatch that, but yeah, I have a fondness for Bond flicks.
Yeah. Oh, we are coming across so many Bond girls in this sort of moment, aren't we, Murgoot?
Hmm.
We just been talking about Martine Beswick and Madeline Smith, of course. We talked about. So yeah, gosh, they're all over the place.
Hmm.
I was particularly fond of Madeline Smith, I've got to say, but Martine Beswick is a bit wonderful. Um, yeah, but Virginia North in this, she gets to just go weird. I love the scene where she dances. I think it's just before. Is it the same scene where they drink the wine?
where they do the dance and then
Yeah,
he takes her to the table and
it was
they
the
sit
same
down
scene.
and
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Oh, fantastic. That was just
And I love
fantastic.
how she shifts between white and black furs in the same scene. You
Mm.
never see the shift, but it's the black and white opposing.
Mm.
Never know which one she's gonna be in. Um,
And Vincent gets to do the same thing as well. He starts off in the black cloak. He's got a white cloak. Well, in the image we have on screen at the moment that you and I are looking at, yeah. I mean, it gives you a really stark design as well.
yeah, it's mixed with the color palette of all the Art Nouveau and Art Deco. Um,
Yeah, I think that comes from one of the odder decisions in the film was to set it in the early 20s.
yeah.
Which, like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? Why not? But
Well, that's one thing I was watching. It's the soundtrack, and it's like this is supposed to be like 1925. Why is Somewhere Over the Rainbow playing as the end credits? That doesn't make sense.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe a certain artistic license taken in that case. Uh,
Yeah.
and I mean, talking about the music, one thing I absolutely loved, and I know I messaged you about this, is 10 minutes before anyone says anything.
Hmm.
I mean, that was just kind of genius in distinguishing this film. If you hadn't already picked up from the from the beginning, with him playing the organ like the Phantom of the Opera in Meets the Great Gatsby, you know, just the fact that you realise, wait, no one has spoken. We're 10 minutes into the film. No one said a word. What is going on here?
Yeah, that was an interesting choice, and it was carried off well. Um, but I one of the critics was talking about the sets looking cheap, and while the scrims of the cafes and the Cafe de Monte Carlo, and yeah, they look kind of cheap, but the rest of it looked opulent, especially the floor with the glass in it
Mm,
and the crypt in the basement, the crypt
mm,
lid, and just some of the focal points. Dr. Vesalius's apartment with the Art Deco furniture and the Bauhaus and just all the finely carved glass lamp covers.
mm.
Um,
It's got a very strong aesthetic. I mean, the main set it has that maybe that I don't know what they would be talking about specifically, but the main sort of, let's say, lair set, that's Elstree. That's taking advantage of their 1920s set and just
mhm.
reworking it.
And
So,
it works effectively. I mean, it
oh, it's
gives a
fantastic.
great backdrop.
Yeah, it's
It's
one of the advantages of using the studio is that they've already got a lot of stuff ready to go, and so you can get that sort of more expensive looking set without having to shell out for, on your own. I mean, they obviously adapted it, but um, yeah, it ends up looking fantastic. And some of the it does give you quite a contrast when they go out of those sets, though. That is quite characteristic of the period. Like,
mhm.
you really tell the difference between studio stuff and non-studio stuff.
Yeah, it's 20th century working class Britain versus well to do Art Deco and Art Nouveau appreciators, and just it's yeah, there are definitely differences in the older doctors having an old Victorian feel to their studies and their bedrooms. Yeah, you could definitely. They spent their time picking their sets well.
Mm. I hadn't even really picked up on that. Though when given that you say it, it does make sense that, and I'm probably going to get this pronunciation wrong, Dr. Vesalius. The fact that his study, his home, is the closest in style to Phibes, maybe sort of unconsciously sets you up
Hmm.
that they're more likely to have a showdown. They don't have the sort of humble roots that the others do.
Yeah, the one that was pleasantly surprising was Dr. Kitay's scene at the airport.
Mm,
They actually went to the airport and did that, and death by rats, by the way.
yes.
While he's flying his de Havilland plane, the only anachronism there was it had the museum plate still on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the Bakelite Museum plate that stated this is a de Havilland aircraft.
Oh dear. I'm gonna have to watch out for that. I'll give us a zoom in on it or something. Yeah. Um, Maybe we should move into talking about some of these curses, some of these interesting deaths. Like,
Oh yeah,
now some of them were changed to be a bit more cinematic, weren't they? Like, what were the ones they changed? So locusts is obviously fine, but they changed bats for something else.
yeah, and I can't remember all the 10
Tell you what, let me have a quick
variants,
check. I may
but
even edit this out. Oh,
they
sorry. Flies and gnats were replaced with rats and bats. There we go.
mhm.
Yes.
And
Although we should specify, like, were they replaced with bats, Murgoot? Were they really? Because what I saw was some absolutely adorable flying foxes.
yeah, well, they're technically bats, but yeah, I just
Yes.
I was like, wow, they got real bats. Wait a minute, those are flying foxes. And
They're so cute. Watch out. They're going to nuzzle.
they're harmless vegetarian bats.
Quick, protect your strawberries.
Mhm.
No, they were so sweet. I mean, that. Except, you know what? With this film, that's very early on. I don't think it hurts because this whole film has a kind of, well, not even a kind of, it's got a strong, knowing comic streak.
Yeah.
It'll give you a spook, but it is also there to make you laugh quite a lot.
Well, the one done off screen was Thornton
Hmm.
um, getting killed by a swarm of bees, and they considered it boils just because of the stings.
Hmm.
And I'm glad that they did it off camera because I could just imagine a 70s version of Nicolas Cage's Wicker Man. No, no, not the bees! Not the
Last thing we
bees!
need.
They probably couldn't find a hive wrangler at that point. I
Yeah.
don't think they were advanced enough to really do that safely.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, so he had the rats was a very good curse, I thought. Now I'm gonna struggle to get the names. I'll see if I can work it out from here. Obviously, my favourite kill I think was the nurse. Sorry, yeah, the
Nurse
nurse with the
Allen,
locusts. Yes, Nurse Allen.
locust, and the
Yeah,
cabbage syrup, which is just like. At first, I thought they were green tomatoes, and then it's like, no, those are small cabbages, almost large Brussels sprouts, and it's cabbage juice to attract locusts. Okay, whatever.
Genius.
But him just sneaking up to the attic floor and taking out the hand drill and drilling the hole and putting the rubber hose and tapping the glass trying to get the locusts down that was funny as all get out.
Oh, completely, completely. I mean, your comparison to law-abiding citizen is not unfair at all. it it really is kind of like that. Just that super genius level of planning. Like, okay, I can work out that they will make her rest, and they will make her rest in the room direct on this floor, and from there I will find her. Just
Yeah, I can't really say my first favorite is the frog mask when he kills off Dunwitty at the masquerade ball and hands over the frog mask and it ratchets itself and strangles the guy to death, cuts his throat. That one was played straight and that was pretty cool. That frog mask was really good.
yeah, some lovely POV stuff, making it quite creepy. And also, I thought the staircase really felt very 1920s. Like,
Yeah.
it made me think of the musicals, the Fred Astaire musicals. But they played it pretty straight, but there was a sneaky joke before it. If
Hmm.
you caught it, the psychiatrist saying, "I'm a head shrinker." Oh, okay, interesting choice of words there, my friend.
Yeah. My all-time favorite one though is Dr. Whitcomb, who Trout has been guarding him and escorts him out of the building, and Whitcomb insists on going first, and
Hmm.
the brass unicorn head comes flying across the street and impales him with the door, and they just, well, that was surprising. Let's get him out of here. Oh, it is left hand thread, and you just see them
Oh gosh,
from
yeah.
outside the elevator and the legs going round and round as they unscrew him from.
I'll have that on screen because it has to be seen to be believed. But it was quite wonderfully underplayed. Just
Yeah,
the twisted logic of that was just great. I mean,
yeah,
it's so over the top whilst being somewhat underplayed.
yeah. Peter Jeffrey as Inspector Trout
Mm.
was perfect deadpan throughout the entire thing. Just, he was absolutely hysterical as the straight man throughout the entire movie.
A long-suffering straight man, yes. Like the number of jokes about his name were just okay. Were they cheap? Yes. Did I laugh every time? Yes. I loved
Yes.
it.
Inspector Bream, Inspector Pike. Inspector Pike was used twice.
Yeah. Oh, Pike was obviously Pike's going to be special for the British because of I don't know if you'll have heard of it. But there's a show called Dad's Army, which had a
I've
sort of
heard of it, but never
it,
watched it.
it had an idiot lackey character called Pike.
Aha.
So for him to be the sort of what is he a lackey? Well, he doesn't get to really. Yeah, he doesn't really drive things as the opposition to Phibes. Ultimately, that is Dr. Vesalius. So yeah, maybe he does fit, but I think it's probably why they went to Pike a couple of times.
Yeah.
We did. I mean, maybe talking about some of the other casting in this. Um, Joseph Cotton as Dr. Vesalius, very good,
Mhm.
very good. But I would say I do miss that we didn't get Peter Cushing because Peter Cushing was meant to be in that role.
Yeah.
Alas, I mean, don't get
Just
me wrong.
life's health problems again, or just contract fell through, or
No, very well remembered. Very well remembered. This is 1971, so probably shooting in 19 could have been shooting early 1971 or late 1970. Um, But yeah, this is the same reason why he has a very small role in the Vampire Lovers with Hammer, and then skipped out the sequel to the Vampire Lovers entirely before
Hmm.
coming back for Twins of Evil, which was, I want to say that was 71. I mean, the way Hammer worked is, they would film everything back to back. So yeah,
And
them getting,
release 2 or 3 a year.
yeah, space them apart. I mean, genius. Once you notice it, you're like, oh, okay, okay. It's like, well, what's a good example? I already used the reptile and Plague of the Zombies. Maybe another good one is, I think, Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, which was 71, and they also did Hands of the Ripper.
Hmm.
Wait, actually, that might have been 72. I apologise, I haven't checked. But both of those set in London, you probably using the same set. Yeah, very
Yeah.
crafty, very crafty.
Um. Then after Dunwoody dies with Frog Mask on, the next one is Doctor Longstreet, where Volnavia um comes in and seduces him while he's cranking his film projector watching a blue movie of a
Mm.
belly dancer dancing with a snake, which he's gleefully panting at. And
Yes, I mean, oh god, you talked about some of the jokes that you didn't get as a child.
yeah, and she walks
This
in
was filthy.
and he pulls the crank off of the film and he keeps turning it while he's staring at the beauty of Volnavia. Just you just see the crank going round and round. It's not attached to anything. And then Volnavia lets Dr. Phibes in after Volnavia ties the good Dr. Longstreet to the chair, and Dr. Phibes proceeds to exsanguinate him and
Mm.
put the 8 pint bottles on the mantle of the fireplace and just looks at them. And this is where he takes a look at the painting, shakes his head, and
Mm.
just kind of wanders off, which is hilarious.
Yes, yes. So Dr. Longstreet, played by Terry Thomas. So uh, Zoomers, maybe you won't be thinking it, but for Brits at the time, they'd have seen Terry Thomas and already have been expecting more of a comedy turn, and they got it. The Blue movie, I noticed some shocking stuff in there, like that snake she's playing with.
Hmm.
She takes that snake in her mouth.
Yeah, she kisses the snake full on.
It's like, you know, I'm not convinced that was meant to represent a snake. I've got a sneaky feeling.
Yeah.
I've got a little sneaky suspicion there. But yeah, that scene was absolutely fantastic.
Well, I love the. He has the doors closed,
Mm.
and his live in maid opens the door. Well, you haven't even eaten your dinner. Oh, what are you watching? Naughty, naughty.
Oh, she was
But
so great when the police come in and ask her, sort of basically implying was she his bit of rough, and she just gives them this look like, "How dare you insinuate?" I
well,
love that.
she comments about the scrim that he has across the doorway, and
Mm.
it's, well, why is this there? Well, it's new and it prevents drafts. And I'm like, oh boy.
Yes, yes. Ah, dear, dear. Yeah. Um, in terms of some other great casting, uh, I mean, maybe we should stick on the deaths in particular, because that is where a lot of that creativity goes. Like, get these very over the top, obviously biblically inspired 10 plagues of Egypt deaths. Um, some of them do get quite nasty. I'm thinking particularly of the death by rats. That's where we're seeing some chunks being taken out of our chap. And I thought, that is going a bit nasty. That's going a bit far.
Sorry, everybody arrived from church. So,
No worries, man. No worries. It's all good.
yeah, I didn't catch the doctor's name. I loved the um Volnavia being walking her dog in her car
Mm,
being broken down, and the car drives up and the doctor's chauffeur is ordered to go help her,
mm.
and Dr. Phibes steps out of the car. That limousine's hilarious because the screens across his
Yeah.
window just show profiles of his face, and the screen on the back just shows the back of his head. But um, Dr. Phibes kills the chauffeur and then grabs this weird diesel punk contraption with fins and big box. Um, what was that little music box supposed to be that she puts in the car with the um
I mean, I don't. There are many weird touches. I'm trying to recall myself. I've only seen it the once, but oh gosh,
yeah, the he hooks up the machine, and
that was a
when
that was a
Inspector
beast,
Trout
wasn't it?
comes, and well, the door's frozen shut.
Oh no, that was Hale, wasn't it?
Hail
Yeah.
and cold, and it's just um
Still one of the more comic ones. I mean, we're offing people quite horribly, but it was. I think it's only the rats where I felt that they were leaning into a nastier area, and we're actually seeing a little bit of gore there because otherwise I don't think we got all that much, did we?
no, the bats and rats, and then Nurse Allen's death. There wasn't so much gore as just the cabbage juice, cabbage syrup,
Hmm.
more like bright green, and then the locust eater face off. And that was pretty nasty for the time.
Pretty nasty. Moving to a model, but yeah, pretty nasty. And I think this will have been an X certificate, but maybe not the hardest X certificate for the time.
Yeah, but yeah, just the way the murders are carried out is hilarious. And then the firstborn son curse, he Phibes kidnaps Lem, Dr. Vesalius's son,
Mm.
uh, and hooks him up to the table, and you have 6 minutes to find the key to unlock him before the acid eats his head off.
We are in Saw territory now, aren't we?
Yeah, it's
Some serious Saw 6 energy with a little bit of Saw 2, for extracting a key from within someone.
yeah. Well, just imagine everybody ripping off the abominable Dr. Phibes for their tense murder scenes.
There we go. At the root of everything, it's Dr. Phibes all the way down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we've been heaping praise on this, but I feel I should maybe go in for a little dig at one thing. Like they did try and overplay, I think, the whole curse of the firstborn. Who's going to get that? And
Hmm.
Dr. Vesalius is like, well, not me. I've got an older brother. It's like, well, hadn't we already seen his son at that point?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that was a bit more predictable.
Yeah. And some of the soliloquies: nine killed you, nine shall die, nine times nine, nine shall die, nine shall.
Mm.
Don't have it all written down, but that soliloquy when he's talking to the photos of his wife is just kind of funny and kind of chilling. Really chilling.
Mm.
Especially in Vincent Price's voice. Um,
Yeah, it's one of the roles where he's, has spoken less, and he's a man who's absolutely known for his voice. When we were covering his biography, obviously, we talked about how much radio work he did, and later how much animation work he did. But just because he's got such an iconic voice, and so it would seem maybe weird to suggest, I don't know, maybe would it have been bolder to have him not speak for the entire film rather than just give him
no,
small bits? What do you reckon?
I prefer the small bits because it's just so creepy when he hooks the speaking horn up to his neck and talks through the gramophone. That's eerie, and it works
It
throughout the
was
whole thing.
it was visually extremely interesting. Yeah, I'll give it that. I maybe would have missed hearing Vincent, but yeah, the actual speech to his wife, I'm not as sure. I that was maybe an area where I felt that was a little weaker.
Maybe, but I still thought it was pretty chilling.
Mm.
While the operation, while the good doctor, uh, Vesalius is operating on his son, trying to get the key. Um, Dr. Phibes has Volnavia go destroy everything, and she grabs the axe and goes ham on all the
Mm.
scenery and knocks over the robot band and just prances around, just slashing everything.
She is having a great time.
Yeah, that was hilarious. And then Inspector Trout and the assistant inspector popping their heads through the scrim and ducking back when she runs back over and slashes where they are.
Mm.
That was just hilarious. And then they trap her in the basement as the acid pours out after the son is saved.
Yeah.
Poor
I-
Volnavia. Poor Volnavia.
she deserved better, but yeah, it's a
All the
great way to
while,
do it. But I
uh,
would say that that is a scene where I became very aware of the limitations of what they
mm,
could show at the time. I mean, you know me, I'm not someone who demands all the gore. I've got quite an appetite for it, but usually when I'm watching stuff from the 60s or 50s, I don't find myself feeling that limitation as much. But I think in the scene with his son and the scene and Volnavia being killed by acid, I did feel that we were missing a fair bit by what we weren't allowed
mm,
to see.
yeah. But at the same time, it was saved by the interspersed with Dr. Phibes playing the organ and going into the basement and opening up the crypt, and his wife's perfectly preserved body's in there, and he
Mm,
climbs in and hooks up the line and lines and drains his blood and puts embalming fluid into his arm, and the big black sarcophagus lid closes and becomes the floor. The big polished black marble
mm,
square with the Art Deco sunburst and the
mm.
moon and the stars. And when Inspector Trout and Dr. Vesalius come down to try and find him, it's, well, where is he? He's escaped again. And, well, what about the final curse? And it just goes black and the credits roll.
Mm.
And of course, I mentioned before that Somewhere Over the Rainbow starts playing, and that's where I'm like, wait a minute, that was made for Wizard of Oz. What's going on?
Yeah. Oh dear, dear, dear. And Meet Me in St. Louis.
Mm,
I really enjoyed that film. Um, yeah, it's a. I guess. Well, it's the whole film is unconventional, but I really enjoyed that as a kind of melancholic ending.
yeah,
That it
but
you sort of don't expect it. It's a film that's got extremely comic elements, but it doesn't exactly go. How can I say it? It doesn't say, "Don't care about this. None of this matters." Like it's got quite a lot of heart to it. I thought.
yeah, it's as a dark comedy, it works very well. As a straight horror, it's okay. But if you take it as that it's supposed to be a dark horror comedy, it's great.
Mm,
Even with all the warts and all its flaws, it's still absolutely hilarious.
yeah, and
Um,
we can't exactly be. How can I say? I don't think we can be too harsh on it for things like you weren't allowed to show someone being burnt to death by acid. Like
yeah.
they would have really struggled, and AIP films were always tamer than Hammer or Amicus.
Hmm.
In fact, it was always Hammer who was pushing and pushing, and AIP and Amicus sort of come along in the wake and get away with stuff as a result. But so we can't blame them too much for that.
Yeah, it worked though. I mean, the methods of death were clever. They were well thought out. Their execution, excuse the pun, oh boy,
We
uh, was fascinating. Just seeing the 20s era devices being used effectively. Um, and they were just so amusingly poetic in their own way that it just carried through the entire movie. And it
oh,
was well paced. There was only a couple slow spots, and it was covered well just by the script. You'd
mm,
mentioned that the exposition did drag on a little bit, but there wasn't as much exposition as there were in many 70s scripts.
oh, completely. Yeah, it's longer than a Hammer would be. The standard Hammer is 84 minutes. This has got about 94 minutes, so it's got the room for that. But the fact that Vincent is largely mute and Volnavia is completely mute means that a lot of that exposition gets pushed off to other characters who
Hmm.
are then really funny. I'm thinking particularly of like the rabbi and the jewelry maker.
Oh, the goldsmith. That
Yeah,
was.
yeah, that they were fantastic for just little bit parts that were really funny.
Hmm.
Um,
And the organist composer, who Dr. Phibes is his main patron. The
mm,
guy who's
oh gosh,
deaf and almost blind. He's hilarious.
he's having a great time. I was thinking of Goldsmith. I was looking at where do we know him from, and he's a guy who sings the Candyman
Oh,
in Willy
wow.
Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's Aubrey Woods.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was trying to place Hugh Griffiths, who plays the rabbi, and has a gay old time in that. Um, but
The
no, I
Irish
don't think.
rabbi. I thought that was funny. The
Oh, he was
slight
so
Irish
good.
accent. Trying to do a Hebrew accent was hilarious.
Well, he's a Welsh guy. He's just a Welsh guy. So yeah, yeah, Welsh, Yiddish. What's the difference, right?
Yeah. I was just like, okay.
It was such just a great weird touch in that. I loved it, and also the set. I mean, how can I say it's to me, and I'm not exactly the expert here, but it did. It didn't look like a conventional temple. Like something like the little dais from which he's speaking was okay, but the otherwise it looked a lot more artistic than like
Yeah.
a practical
Didn't look
a
like a
practical
real
temple.
synagogue. It looked.
No, it's not like a standard synagogue at all. Um, they had him back for the sequel as a completely different character. I've just seen.
Hmm,
Oh, what's he try again? I'm now just and oh gosh, he appears to have played another rabbi later on. Clearly, he was so convincing in this. Oh dear, never
yeah.
mind. I'll have to stop looking that up though. That's an addictive little Wikipedia page for him. Yeah, so those characters absorbing the exposition, I thought made it quite interesting. And again, you sort of when you get to hear Vincent, it stands out that much more. It's that much more special. I mean, sorry, carry on, Murgoot, carry on.
Well, one thing we forgot to mention was when they were in the operating room with the acid
Oh
coming
yes.
down. Vincent Price pulls off the prosthetics, and you get the full mask is shown on
Ah,
the screen.
I'm very glad you said that because that's yeah, that's one of the odd bits, the really odd bits. I suspect you might think I'm being a sourpuss for this Murgoot, but he pulls off the mask and then he goes and reapplies it.
Mm-hmm.
That bugged me. That really annoyed me. Like, you did not need to do that.
Yeah,
And maybe
but he
something
wanted to
like,
be perfect for his wife.
well, how can I say it? I'm maybe asking the film to be something that it's not. I'm asking it to be a lot more serious than it intended to be. But I would have liked some. If he wants to look perfect for his wife, I guess what I might have liked is something whereby he has a tussle with
Mm.
the police officer where maybe half of the face is ripped off,
Yeah.
revealing him, and then, he unfortunately he has to get away because he wants to be with his wife, but he's freaking out because of that. And so he's not getting to be with her and perfect, so he tries to turn away to so she doesn't see it. I don't know. Something like that could be a bit more of an emotional conflict for him, but he shows his face and then he just goes and reapplies it again, and just time is of the essence in this moment, and it just bugged me.
Yeah.
But again, I'm possibly asking for the film to lean a lot more into seriousness than it was ever intended to. Um, and another oddity of this is, I mean, we have seen a huge number of horror films, and we know, especially from slashers onwards, although sci-fi features too, the reveal of the monster or the monstrous face is meant to be very special, right? You spend the whole
Hmm.
movie waiting for it,
Yeah.
um, which is why they have to really land it. Because when they absolutely flub it, it's yeah. I'm not naming the burning or anything, but the burning. So in this one, weirdly, they had the face reveal, the monster face reveal, on the advertising. It was on the poster for it.
Yeah. It's that's one thing that Hammer, Amicus, and AIP did that kind of bugs me is they tend to do their reveals on
Mm.
their posters. It's they've done it with several things where the monster isn't supposed to be seen until halfway through and you still put it on the poster. It's like,
Mm.
what?
Yeah, you've promised us Frankenstein. We wonder, well, sorry, Frankenstein's monster. We want to know what it's going to look like, and we want to wonder. We want to crave it.
Hmm.
The film does it right. Like the actual, say, I'm thinking of Curse of Frankenstein. The actual Curse of Frankenstein does not show us a creature until what, 40 minutes in? So something like that. And when it does, it's an amazing reveal. Suddenly the camera zooms
Mm.
up to the guy's face. But Dr. Phibes, yeah, it's on the poster. And the poster, infamously, I mean, people might know this, the the poster played it for a laugh too. It was
Mhm.
played parodying a popular film at the time called Love Story, and it used that film's tagline slightly, but instead of "love means never having to say you're sorry," it was "love means never having to say you're ugly." But
Okay.
I'll have that on screen for people. But um, apparently, it was well received in Hollywood as the in joke, but uh, it stopped the film doing all that well because horror audiences didn't know what it was. So they, for the second weekend, they did a new round of advertising, which was emphasizing, "Look, guys, this is a horror film, I assure you." um, but yeah, it's Price with his full makeup out there, full grizzled makeup like we're currently looking at, and Volnavia in a sort of embrace, which is sort of that's not really there in the film. Um,
No, aside from the dance, but that's about it.
what do you think Volnavia's relationship with Dr. Phibes was?
Uh, don't know. More like half between girl Friday and daughter figure.
Hmm. I mean, she's devoted to him, and she seems to be.
Mhm.
A lot of what they do has this strong ritualistic quality, which
Yeah.
I guess, given the fact that he's enacting basically the 10 plagues of Egypt, maybe a ritual quality is actually very well
Mhm.
suited.
Yeah. She's his ritual assistant, more of his girl Friday, but you get the feeling that he treats her half the time he treats her like a daughter, the other half the time he treats her like his assistant all the
Hmm.
way through.
Yeah, I just you wonder how they came to be. You're never given this stuff like how did he meet Volnavia? Why is she called Volnavia? Um,
Why is
has he?
she mute?
Yeah, I really want to know. Did she help him build the clockwork wizards? By the way, kudos to those guys because I was looking very closely to try and catch them moving, and I didn't catch them. So good job, good job.
Hmm.
Although I think we did have a little bit of the standard problem at the time, like the dead bodies breathing very obviously. But I will let them off. I will let them off.
Yeah. Well,
We also had the very, I don't know if it bugged you, but the very obviously dubbed teenager. It's nice and distracting. It's fine. It's fine. Maybe I'm being too picky there, but that did stand out to me.
yeah, I don't know. Uh,
I know I've
one of
taken a
the
load of notes there. Are you looking just sort of see is there anything
trying
you?
to see if anything I missed. Um, I don't know. I say we go for our impressions. I love this film. It's eminently rewatchable. It's a great dark comedy. Um, really enjoyed Vincent Price hamming it up. Everybody hamming it up. Um, Virginia North just going at everything with an axe was just funny. Um, it's actually, I'm going to push it higher than what we originally talked about. I'll give it 10 burgers, a little bit of ketchup, a lot of cabbage juice, and yeah, it's it's eminently watchable. It's something for horror fans you need to see at least once,
Hmm.
just to see Vincent Price coming out strong and being just absolutely chewing the scenery, like I said.
It's like, how do you chew the scenery whilst having to be very restrained? Somehow he found a way. Yeah, yeah, oh, it's great. Well, I mean, like, he's 59 at this point. He had made a lot of movies. He wanted to try new things, and this really worked for him. Yeah. Okay. So, oh, score wise, well, let's do the thoughts. I would really want people to see this just to kind of shake their idea up of what horror is. Like, I think the idea of what is a 1970s horror, what's a Vincent Price horror, I don't think it is going to be anything like this. And that's exactly why I want them to see it. I want them to see, like, the frog Death by Frog Mask, or Terry Thomas's like wonderfully smutty blue jokes that are still kept quite tasteful, and uh, Volnavia going ham with the axe, just and her performance. I want people to see the weirdness and be completely surprised by it. So I'd recommend it for that reason alone. It's also a curiosity for Vincent Price fans to see him deliver a very unusual performance. Just this is really different to how he usually plays things, so it's great to see that he can make it work. And the whole film is just powered by a nice premise, fairly original premise, but I suppose you could have swapped it out for other stuff. But the premise of the 10 plagues, giving you a nice idea of what you're going to get, with some uh, curiosity over how they deliver it, lots of inventiveness in how it's delivered, fantastic jokes throughout, wonderful bit parts that really enliven the film, and just the whole thing just getting to bathe in its weirdness and strong, like, Art Deco aesthetics. There's so much like that. Just makes me love this film. It was an absolute delight. I thought it would be weird. From reading the biography about Vincent Price, I knew it went a little out there, but I did not know how weird it would get. Whilst, you know, still having a bit of a heart. There's still some some somberness in the ending that really worked for me. Even if playing Over the Rainbow is a tad anachronistic. Oh, and the other thing that I really liked was that they went and shot at Highgate Cemetery. Um,
Mhm.
like, instantly recognizable. I have been there. I have walked. I knew exactly where they were. Um, and that was great. That was so cool to see. So you just, stuff like that really elevated it. How do you put that into a score? I don't think I'd go as high as you, but it's a strong 9. 9 burgers, uh, a generous helping of cheese, maybe slightly stinged us on the ketchup. But ketchup was expensive at the time, shall we say? Um, Limited amount of pickle, and all those steaks were, all those burgers are very, very well done. So yeah, it's a strong 9 from me. It's a 10 from you. If folks, if you're listening, you haven't seen the Abominable Dr. Phibes, highly recommended. Put it on your watch list, and just have wonderful moments of, oh hey, Saw did that. Oh, Abiding Citizen did that. Hey, that's me for Vendetta. You know. And then if you really enjoyed this, then go and watch Theatre of Blood, and just see a very, very similar plot, but completely different vibe, completely different performance. And in that one, Vincent is all the speeches. He is completely vocal. So
Mhm.
that'll give you a good contrast. All right. Murgoot, thank you so much for the recommendation and coming on to discuss the Abominable Doctor. Oh, we're doing so well. The Abominable Dr. Phibes.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and for all that are listening, happy Halloween.
Thanks very much, folks. And yeah, stick around, check out the other reviews that we're doing as part of this Halloween special. Thanks very much. Thanks, y'all. Cheers.